So Abdulrahim Foukara is the Washington bureau chief of Al-Jazeera and host of the channel's Mean Washington, a weekly roundtable show on American political and cultural affairs. In 1990, he joined the BBC World Service, where he worked as a producer, reporter, anchor, and journalism instructor in various departments, including Arabic, English, African, and World Service journalism training. In 1999, he joined the BBC's The World as an Arab world affairs reporter. In 2001, he continued to report for the BBC in London out of DC, while also serving as a senior editor on alafrica.com. In 2002, he joined the Al-Jazeera satellite channel initially as a Washington-based reporter and subsequently as head of its United Nations office. So we're very glad to have you here, and I'll turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sinan. Thank you all for having me moderate this panel. This panel, as you know, is Turkey's leadership role in an uncertain Middle East. My name is Abdulrahim Foukara. About 3-4 years ago, the Arab world was besotted with the love story between Muhannad and Noor, a Turkish soap opera dubbed into Syrian Arabic. Muhannad was good-looking and romantic, a heartbreaker who literally caused many a jealous Arab man to divorce or threaten to divorce his wife because she only had eyes for Muhannad. Muhannad and Noor was a parable of what was happening on a wider, grander, more political scale in the Arab world, which had fallen under the spell of Turkey, a moderate Muslim country with a democratizing political system and a thriving economy, a geographical, historical, and cultural bridge between Europe and the Middle East. In the eyes of many Arabs who still consider Muslim Spain, with its grand cultural achievements and religious tolerance, as a lost paradise, Turkey is almost a paradise regained, a perception politically and economically reinforced a few years ago when the ruling Justice and Development Party of Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan settled on its zero-problem policy with its neighbors, many of them obviously Arab. But the Arab world's relationship with Turkey has also a schizophrenic side to it. Many Arabs, particularly among those who do not subscribe to the notion of the Islamic Caliphate, see modern-day Turkey as an extension of the Ottoman Empire that had lorded it over their ancestors for several centuries. This perception has been further nurtured in places such as Syria, where the supporters of President Bashar al-Assad see Tayyip Erdogan's support for what is often described as the Syrian revolution as literally a blast from the Ottoman past. To further discuss Turkey's leadership role in the Arab region, a great and talented panel has been assembled. I've been told there's no need to do bios for them, so I'll just rattle through their names very quickly. Joost Hiltermann from the International Crisis Group. Yigal Schleifer is a freelance journalist, should say been based in Istanbul various times. Wright doesn't need any introductions either, except that I will say that I interviewed her when she published her book, Rock the Kasbah, on the so-called Arab Spring. Also, another interesting book, very relevant to this discussion today, The Islamists Are Coming. So, without further ado, I'm going to give each one of them 12 minutes. I'm going to be as strict as a sword, guys. Literally, 12 minutes each of you. And then we'll go to the audience for Q&A. We must finish by 5 o'clock. I'm going to be an Arab dictator today. So, I'm going to start with you. By the way, on my list is Darrag from Egypt's Freedom and Justice Party. He is not here. So I'll follow the order I have on the list, and I'll begin with Joost. Over to you.
Joost, Hiltermann, nice to meet you, and thank you for to the organizers for arranging this, sizable event. I'm very grateful to be here and to speak to you. If I'm a little bit not in my normal being, it's because I have a cold, and I just arrived from Turkey yesterday. I was in Ankara on Monday, and then in Erbil and in Baghdad last week. So I'm still jet lagged. So I was asked to talk about Turkish relationship with Iraq, and that relationship was pretty bad in the aftermath of the American intervention in Iraq in 2003. Turkey didn't really like what was happening, was fearing the vacuum that would ensue from a military assault on Iraq, even if it was grateful to be rid of Saddam Hussein. They were not alone in that. But the situation was pretty rocky for about 4 years. And then was the surge in 2007. Turkey realized that the United States had finally seen the light. And that it was finally doing something that Turkey had already a long time urged it to do, and not only Turkey, but also the Arab states, which was recalibrating power in Baghdad against the Shias that are the Shia Islamists that Turkey saw as close to Iran. And that now there was going to be a new arrangement where the Sunnis of Iraq would be more fully included, because of course after 2003 they hadn't really had a seat at the table in any meaningful sense. So for Turkey, this was a great step forward, a change, and it made its own sea change in its relationship with Iraq. It decided to work actively with the Iraqi government and also with the Kurdistan regional government, both at the same time. And this was, especially the rapprochement with the Kurds was a huge step, but even with Baghdad at that time was a big step, because it didn't really trust the Shiite Islamist parties that were in control in Baghdad. And it signed in 2009 a number of strategic agreements with Baghdad, which until this moment exist, on paper anyway. But at that time there was a lot of hope and promise that these would be implemented. It also, with the KRG in particular, has developed very close bonds and is talking about a quote-unquote strategic partnership with the KRG and the complete economic integration of the Kurdistan region into the Turkish economy. So these are unprecedented, at that time anyway, were unprecedented steps. Then the relationship with the Iraqi government in 2011 took a nosedive, even as the relationship with Erbil continued to go up. And now what Turkey is doing in its relationship with Iraq is actually contributing to the centrifugal forces already in existence in Iraq and driving the country apart. This is not what Turkey says its strategic interest is, and so it leaves us confused as to what Turkey actually is trying to accomplish in Iraq, and that's one reason why I went to Ankara 2 days ago, hoping to get that resolved in a few meetings, and I am as confused as I was before I went there. And so if you want an answer from me, you will not get it. But I will try to shed some light on these issues. What happened? Well, it's important to understand what Turkey has long wanted from Iraq. It has wanted a buffer against Iran. That is its top priority. And secondly, it wants, and it's probably of almost equal weight, no external support or impulse for Kurdish nationalism inside Turkey. In other words, it doesn't want an empowered Kurdistan region in Iraq that could then empower the Kurds in Turkey and create the nightmare scenario, a larger Kurdish state in the region. Turkey also wants access to Iraq's considerable energy resources, oil and gas. It wants access to its markets because Turkey's economy is growing rapidly. And it wants, of course, regional stability and indeed a degree of regional integration in various ways, trade, economy, energy, and otherwise. And to this end, or to these ends, Turkey has supported Iraq's territorial integrity / political unity. I think you heard Ambassador Tan mention these terms this morning. Now, in reaching out to both the government of Iraq and the Kurdistan regional government, Turkey has pursued all of these above goals. And it has pressed specifically for a federal oil and gas law, a hydrocarbons law, and a federal revenue sharing law in order to bring the country together and to keep the Kurds ensconced inside the Iraqi body politic, because that would prevent the Kurds from serving as an example to the Kurds in Turkey, while at the same time creating a strong Iraq that would be a buffer against Iran and would at the same time provide Turkey with its oil and gas needs. Perfect. It is also argued in favor of an inclusive government in Baghdad based on power sharing. So after the elections that have taken place, especially the 2010 elections, it has pressed very much for a power sharing arrangement where all the various, the main groups that won votes would be allowed to sit in the government. Of course, it expects the KRG, now that the KRG is a very good friend, to fight the PKK for Turkey, to the extent that the PKK, of course, is in Iraq. And on that front, there's been a little bit of frustration still, but Turkey hopes that with time and as the KRG becomes more dependent on Turkey economically, that through that leverage, Turkey will accomplish that goal and deal a setback to the PKK. And finally, Turkey hopes to mold and contain Kurdish nationalism in Iraq and Turkey by controlling the KRG. On the one hand, it is empowering the KRG because it's economically becoming much stronger. It's becoming potentially an oil and gas exporter to Turkey. But it wants to contain that, control it, and keep the KRG wholly economically dependent on Turkey. Now, the nosedive, what changed? What happened in Turkey's relationship with Baghdad? Well, first importantly was the perception of Maliki, that as the perception had been of the Iraqi Shiites, of the Iraqi Shiite Islamists, that Maliki is an Iranian proxy and not, in fact, an Arab Shia who has some distance from Iran, who has some autonomy in decision making. And secondly, this is still number one, the perception, but B, perception of Maliki as a would-be dictator, that he's been amassing power and he's planning to stay. He's not about to, first of all, share power or to leave when his term is up. The second thing that changed is the Arab awakening and the Syria crisis that came out of that, which is reshaping all the relations in the region and leading to a total realignment of forces in the region, with the sectarian cast, because some political actors are pushing sectarian arguments and discourse and policies, and so there is this emergence, or the perception of an emergence of a Sunni alliance of Saudi Arabia, Gulf states, Qatar in particular, and Turkey, and that is arrayed against Iran and its allies who happen to be Shia. So Iraq, the Iraqi regime, of course, but also Hezbollah, and then the Syrian government, which is not a Shia regime, but anyway, it's not a Sunni one. And so there's some sympathy there with the Alawites. Now, these are perceptions. I'm not saying there are actually these alliances.